Wait, what? I exclaimed, almost spitting out my drink. Vanessa's voice sliced through the casual conversation like a knife. It was me, she announced, her grin widening as she soaked in the sudden spotlight. My stepfather's expression glowed with thankfulness, and my mother's eyes welled up with proud tears. The room fell completely silent, the only sound the quiet whirring of the ceiling fan. I sat completely still, my hands balled into fists in my lap, every fiber of my being tense. She couldn't possibly have said that, not after I'd trusted her with that secret. My name is Jessica Neal, I'm 29, and I work as a social worker. I've always been the type to steer clear of drama and quietly handle what needs to be done. A bit more than a year ago, my stepfather, Rob, received a cancer diagnosis. It shattered our family, most of all my mom, who adores him completely. When the medical expenses began to accumulate, I felt compelled to act. That's why I anonymously used my own savings to settle his debt. The sole person I had confided in was Vanessa, my older stepsister, someone I believed I could trust. It was meant to be a dinner to celebrate. Rob had just received a clean bill of health, and my mom wanted to commemorate the moment with a special meal. She prepared her famous pot roast, the one Rob always claims is better than his own mother's. The house was filled with the aroma of roasted meat, rosemary, and garlic. The dining table was arranged with her finest china, and an extra chair was added to fit Vanessa's husband, Derek. Everyone appeared genuinely happy, truly happy, for the first time in what seemed like ages. I was seated between my mom and Derek, attempting to participate in the light conversation, but my thoughts were elsewhere. A warm feeling spread through my chest every time Rob laughed, knowing he could finally breathe without the burden of those hospital bills. He had even proposed a toast to the anonymous benefactor who had paid his debt, expressing gratitude for their incredible generosity. I had just smiled quietly into my glass, satisfied to keep my secret. That was when Rob unexpectedly asked, "Was it one of you?" His gaze moved around the table, hopeful but not demanding. My heart began to race, but before I could figure out how to respond, Vanessa leaned back in her chair, smiling like a cat that got the cream, and said, "It was me." I gaped at her, my throat closing up as the room broke into applause. My mom's face shone with pride, and she reached over to squeeze Vanessa's hand. "I knew it," she said, her voice shaking with feeling. "You've always been so incredibly generous." Rob gazed at her as if she were a hero, his voice gentle as he said, "Thank you, sweetheart." I'm honestly speechless. But it was Derek's reaction that truly stunned me. He blinked, his fork pausing halfway to his mouth, and then said, "Wait, you did this?" When Vanessa didn't even blink, she turned to him with that same sugary smile and said, "Of course I did. I kept it from you because I wanted it to be a surprise." Derek stared at her for a second, clearly trying to make sense of it, but then just shrugged and went along with it, mumbling about how proud he was. Meanwhile, I sat there in shocked silence, my hands clutching the napkin in my lap so hard I thought it might rip. She had lied, not only to the family but to her own husband. And the most awful part was that she hadn't hesitated for a second. The rest of dinner continued as if nothing were wrong. Rob told stories from his treatment, making us laugh with his impressions of the cranky nurses who eventually grew fond of him. My mom kept adding how strong he had been throughout it all, and Derek made jokes about Rob charming the doctors for extra Jell-O cups. The atmosphere was light and warm, exactly what you'd want for a dinner celebrating a new lease on life. But Vanessa wouldn't make eye contact with me, not a single time. Whenever I looked her way, she averted her eyes, focusing intently on her plate or striking up a conversation with anyone else at the table. It was as if she knew I was challenging her to look at me, to acknowledge what she had done. Her fake smiles and easy laughs didn't fool me for a moment. Beneath her charming exterior, I could see the strain in her shoulders and her tight grip on her wine glass. She knew I wouldn't forget this, even if I remained silent for Rob's benefit. When dinner was finally over, I couldn't leave quickly enough. I hugged my mom and Rob, told him how proud I was of his strength, and put on my coat. Vanessa offered me a quick, meaningless smile as I walked by, but I didn't bother trying to say goodbye. My mom called out for me to drive safely, but I could barely hear her over the whirlwind of thoughts in my head. Stepping out into the chilly night air, the drive home felt endless. I kept reliving the evening, trying to understand what had just happened. It should have been a celebration, a moment of collective relief after everything Rob and my mom had endured. Instead, it had turned into this strange performance. I repeatedly asked myself how Vanessa could sit there and lie to everyone like that. How could she look Rob in the eye and claim credit for something she had no part in? And the worst part was that I had allowed her to. I let her steal that moment because I didn't want to ruin Rob's night. But now, sitting alone in my apartment, the silence felt overwhelming, and I couldn't stop questioning if I'd made the right decision. As I sat on my couch, gazing blankly at the TV I hadn't even turned on, I knew deep down what I had to do, or more accurately, what I couldn't do. Telling Rob the truth might have eased my guilt, but what good would it actually do for him? He had already been through so much and was just beginning to feel like himself again. The last thing he needed was to be caught in some ugly argument between Vanessa and me. He didn't deserve that, not after fighting so hard to beat cancer. I persuaded myself that remaining silent was the right choice. Rob's peace of mind was more important than my anger or frustration. As much as I wanted him to know that I was the one who had supported him when he needed it most, it wouldn't change anything for him now. If anything, it might make him feel guilty for celebrating Vanessa when he should have been thanking me. And frankly, he didn't need guilt. He needed to heal, to be happy, to focus on living. So I decided to let it go for him, if not for myself. The next morning, I couldn't contain it any longer. I called Vanessa while sitting at my kitchen table, my coffee untouched and turning cold. The phone rang twice before she answered, her tone cheerful and casual, as if nothing were wrong. "Hey, Jess," she said, like we were the best of friends. "What's up?" I didn't mince words. "We need to talk about last night," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. There was a pause, just long enough to feel significant. "What about it?" she finally asked, though I could hear the tension seeping into her tone. "You know exactly what," I shot back. "Why did you lie to everyone and say you paid off Rob's bills? We both know it wasn't you. I told you in confidence. How could you do that to me?" Vanessa let out a heavy sigh on the other end of the line. "Jess, look, it's not a big deal. I didn't think you'd be this upset." "Not a big deal?" I snapped, gripping my phone tighter. "You stood there and lied to everyone, Vanessa. You took credit for something you didn't do, something I gave up a lot for. How is that not a big deal?" She hesitated, and for a second, her voice softened. "I just wanted to make Dad proud of me. He's always been proud of you, Jess. You're the selfless one, the one who helps everyone. I didn't think you'd mind if, just this once, I could have that moment with him." I was stunned. "Are you kidding me? This wasn't some harmless lie, Vanessa. You know what I went through to make that happen. I drained my savings so Mom wouldn't have to stress about the bills, so Rob could concentrate on getting better. And you thought I wouldn't mind." "I thought it would be fine," she snapped back, her voice turning sharper now. "I didn't think you'd actually care who got the credit. I mean, you didn't even want to tell him, right? You were happy to let it be anonymous. So, what does it matter if he thinks it was me?" "It's not about the credit, Vanessa," I said, my voice steady but firm. "I didn't do this to be thanked or celebrated. I didn't even want Rob to know it was me. But lying? That's a completely different matter. You knew it wasn't you, and you let everyone believe it was. You let Mom and Rob look at you like you were some kind of savior. How can you live with that?" Vanessa let out an exasperated sigh. "Jess, you're blowing this way out of proportion. It's not like I hurt anyone. Rob's happy, Mom's happy. What difference does it make? You're the one who said you didn't want recognition, so why does it matter who they think did it?" "It matters because it's a lie," I snapped. "You've twisted something that should have been about helping Rob into a way to feed your own ego. And now I'm stuck here watching everyone praise you for something you didn't do. Do you have any idea how humiliating that is for me? Not because I want the attention, but because it's a betrayal, Vanessa. You betrayed me." For a moment, there was nothing but silence. Then Vanessa said quietly, almost defensively, "I didn't mean to hurt you, Jess. I wanted to feel like I was enough for once. Like I mattered. I'm not going to tell your dad," I said, my voice cold and measured. "Not because of you, but because of him. He's been through enough, and I won't add this to his plate. But, Vanessa, I paused, taking an unsteady breath. I want you out of my life. I can't keep pretending that what you did doesn't matter. Jess, come on, she said, her voice rising with panic. You can't be serious. You're really going to throw our relationship away over this? I told you I didn't mean to hurt you. You didn't mean to hurt me? I repeated, disbelief dripping from every word. You lied to my face. You lied to your own husband. And you stole something that wasn't yours to take. You knew how much that sacrifice meant to me, and for what? To make yourself feel better? No, Vanessa. I can't trust you anymore. She started to say something, but I cut her off. One day, your conscience is going to catch up with you. Maybe not today, maybe not even next year, but it will. And when it does, I hope you think about this moment. About the sister you pushed away just to make yourself look good. My voice cracked, but I held firm. I hope it was worth it, Vanessa. Vanessa didn't reply. The silence stretched on, heavy and suffocating, until I finally ended the call. I sat there, staring at the phone, my hands shaking as the weight of it all sank in. I felt raw and empty, but at least I had finally said what needed to be said. A year passed, but the relationship between Vanessa and me never returned to normal. We still saw each other at family events, birthdays, holidays, the occasional barbecue, but we might as well have been strangers. Our conversations were polite but hollow, and we avoided being alone together. The tension between us wasn't just noticeable, it was palpable. Mom was the first to mention it after a family dinner one night. She pulled me aside, her forehead creased with worry. Jessica, she said softly, what's going on between you and Vanessa? You two used to be so close. I shrugged, trying to downplay it. We're fine, Mom. Just busy with life, I guess. But I could tell she wasn't convinced. Rob had noticed it, too. At Christmas, he asked why Vanessa and I didn't sit together anymore. You two used to laugh so much, he'd said. I forced a smile and changed the subject, but it hurt more than I expected. A few months after that Christmas dinner, Vanessa began reaching out. It was subtle at first, a text here and there. Hey, how's work going? Or Mom said you've been really busy, hope you're okay. I ignored every single one. I couldn't make myself engage with her. Each message felt like a small poke, a reminder of what she'd done and how easily she had betrayed me. At family gatherings, she tried harder. She'd make small talk or ask me questions about my job, but I kept my answers brief and polite, giving her no opening to dig deeper. At one dinner, she cornered me in the kitchen while I was getting another drink. Jess, I know things haven't been great between us, but maybe we could get coffee sometime? Just talk. I didn't even look at her. I'm busy, I said flatly, moving past her. She sighed, but I didn't stop to see her reaction. Whatever she was attempting, it wasn't enough to undo the past. A few weeks after that awkward dinner, Mom mentioned something that surprised me. Vanessa's been going to church, she said, her tone almost hesitant, as if unsure how I'd take it. She's been feeling. I don't know, empty, I guess. She told me she's been thinking a lot about life and wanting to make some changes. I raised an eyebrow but didn't respond. Vanessa going to church? It didn't fit. She'd never been the religious type, always too busy, too modern for that. Mom must have noticed my skepticism because she added, I think it's good for her. She seems calmer lately. More reflective. Maybe this is exactly what she needs. I nodded absently, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just another one of Vanessa's tactics to fix things. If it was, I wasn't buying it. People don't change overnight, and I wasn't ready to lower my defenses. One evening, as I was getting comfortable on the couch with a book, my phone buzzed on the coffee table. I looked at the screen and saw Vanessa's name. My first impulse was to let it go to voicemail, as I had so many times before. But something made me pause. Maybe it was curiosity, or a persistent feeling that this wasn't just another superficial attempt to connect. Against my better judgment, I answered. Jess, she said softly, her voice quieter than I'd ever heard it. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I need to tell you something. I stayed silent, gripping the phone tighter. She took a deep breath and continued, I've been struggling with what I did, what I said that night. Her voice cracked, and I could hear the emotion in her words. It's been eating at me, Jess. I thought I could just move on, pretend like it didn't matter, but it does. It matters a lot. I couldn't help myself. The words came out before I could temper them. Should I tell you I told you so? My voice was sharp, edged with all the frustration I'd held onto for the past year. On the other end of the line, Vanessa let out a shaky sigh, and for a moment, I thought she might hang up. You have every right to say that, she finally replied, her tone raw. You warned me, Jess, and you were right. I thought I could live with it, but I can't. Every time Dad looks at me with that pride in his eyes, it feels like a dagger. I know I don't deserve it. And you. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, either. Vanessa's voice wavered as she continued. I've thought about coming clean so many times, Jess, but I'm terrified. What's Dad going to think of me? What's Mom going to say when she realizes I lied to her face? And Derek, he didn't even know what I did that night. How do I explain that to him? I stayed quiet for a moment, letting her words sink in. For all the pain she'd caused me, I could hear genuine fear and remorse in her voice. You're afraid of their reaction, I said, keeping my tone steady. But what did you think was going to happen when you took credit for something you didn't do? Did you honestly think it wouldn't catch up to you eventually? I let out a slow breath, trying to steady myself. Vanessa, I'm not going to force you to do anything, I said, my voice calm but firm. This is your mess, and you're the one who has to deal with it. I already made my decision a long time ago to stay quiet for your dad's sake. But your guilt, your conscience, that's on you. No one can fix that but you. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Finally, she whispered, I don't know if I can, Jess. I don't know if I'm strong enough to face it. I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. You're going to have to figure that out for yourself. Before she could respond, I added, You're going to have to figure that out for yourself. Then, without waiting for her reply, I hung up the phone. I stared at the screen for a moment, my heart pounding, a whirlwind of emotions swirling inside me, relief, anger, and, strangely, pity. I wasn't sure if Vanessa would ever own up to what she'd done, but I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't carrying her guilt for her anymore. A few weeks later, I received a group text from Vanessa. It was an invitation to a family dinner at her house, something she hadn't organized in a very long time. I'd love to have everyone over, the message read, with an overly cheerful tone that felt strained. Just a casual evening. Good food, good company. I stared at the screen, debating whether to respond. It felt sudden, especially after our last conversation. Mom quickly replied, Sounds wonderful. We'll be there. Rob chimed in with a thumbs-up emoji, and even Derek added, Looking forward to it. Reluctantly, I typed back, I'll come. The evening arrived faster than I expected. I pulled into Vanessa's driveway, already preparing myself for whatever she had planned. Her house was perfectly tidy, the lights warm and inviting through the window. I could see the dining table carefully set, complete with candles and what looked like her best china. As I stepped inside, Vanessa greeted me with a smile that didn't fully reach her eyes. Jess, she said softly. Thanks for coming. I nodded, but didn't say much, still uncertain of her intentions. Once everyone had arrived and settled in, Vanessa cleared her throat and stood near the fireplace. Can I have everyone's attention for a minute? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. The cheerful conversation died down as we all turned to look at her. She clasped her hands together, glancing at Derek for support before addressing the rest of us. There's something I need to say. Something I've needed to say for a long time. Vanessa took a deep breath, her fingers trembling slightly as she clasped them in front of her. I've made some terrible mistakes in the past, she began, her voice steady but heavy with emotion. One mistake in particular, it hurt someone I care about deeply. And it's been weighing on me ever since. She paused and glanced at Derek, who gave her a small, encouraging nod from his seat beside her. He placed a hand on her shoulder, and she seemed to draw strength from it. I've been struggling with how to handle it, and I've been talking to my priest. He's been helping me realize that the only way to move forward is to face it. Rob leaned forward in his chair, his expression tense. Vanessa, he said, his voice filled with concern. What is it? What mistake are you talking about? His hands gripped the armrest tightly, his anxiety visible, while Mom's hand rested lightly on his arm, her own confusion written on her face. The room was so quiet you could hear the faint tick of the wall clock as we all waited for her to continue. Vanessa took another deep breath, her voice shaking now as she began. Last year, when Dad was recovering from his treatment, there was something I did that I've regretted every single day since. She looked down at her hands, her composure starting to break. At the dinner we had to celebrate his recovery, when he mentioned that someone had paid off his medical debt. I lied. I told everyone it was me. She glanced around the room, her eyes filled with tears as she continued. But it wasn't me. It was Jessica. The weight of her words hung in the air, and I felt every pair of eyes shift to me. Jessica was the one who used her savings to pay off the debt. She was the one who made sure Dad and Mom didn't have to worry about the bills. And I took credit for it. I took her sacrifice and made it my own because I wanted Dad to be proud of me. I wanted to feel like I was enough, just for once. Her voice broke as she dropped to her knees, her hands clasped in front of her as if in prayer. Tears streamed down her face. I'm so sorry, Jess. I betrayed you. I lied to everyone, and I hurt you in a way I can never take back. Dad, Mom, I don't even know what to say. I've been carrying this guilt for so long, and I couldn't hide from it anymore. Please, please forgive me. I know I don't deserve it, but I had to tell you the truth. The room was silent except for her quiet sobs. Derek reached out to steady her, his hand resting on her shoulder, but she stayed on her knees, her face crumpled with regret. Rob looked at her, his face pale and stunned, while Mom's hand shot up to cover her mouth. All eyes turned to me, waiting for my reaction. Through her sobs, Vanessa continued, her voice raw and broken. Jessica, she's an angel. She's the most selfless person I've ever known. She didn't tell Dad what I did, not because she couldn't, but because she didn't want him to worry. She cared more about his peace of mind than about what I took from her. She's so good, so selfless, that she didn't even want him to know she was the one who paid the bills in the first place. Her shoulders shook as she wiped her face with trembling hands. I've spent this past year hating myself for what I did to you, Jess. I don't know how you stayed so quiet, how you kept all of that inside while I took what was yours. You're so much better than me. I could never be like you, but I wish I could. I wish I had your strength, your kindness. I've spent my whole life trying to feel like I'm enough, and I realize now that it wasn't you I was competing with, it was myself. Vanessa buried her face in her hands, the room heavy with the sound of her sobs. Derek knelt beside her, gently wrapping an arm around her shoulders. Rob and Mom sat frozen, their faces a mixture of shock and deep emotion. I didn't know what to say, my heart twisting in ways I hadn't expected. It's been 6 months since that night, 6 months since Vanessa got down on her knees and told the truth in front of everyone. Things haven't returned to the way they were, and, honestly, I don't think they ever will. But they've changed in ways I didn't anticipate. Vanessa has been different, quieter, more thoughtful. She still reaches out, though I can tell it's difficult for her. She sends texts sometimes, small things like, saw this and thought of you, or Mom said you weren't feeling well, hope you're okay. Rob and Mom handled the truth better than I thought they would. Rob was disappointed in Vanessa, I could see that, but his love for her didn't waver. And with me, he's been even warmer, always finding small ways to show his gratitude, like saving me the best slice of pie at dinner or asking about my work in a way that feels truly genuine. It's strange, but I think in some ways, that night brought us closer as a family. Not perfect, but closer. As for Vanessa, she's still trying to be the best version of herself. And for the first time, I think she truly means it.